Sarah Martinez had always been different from other girls in her small Texas town. While her classmates spent weekends at the mall or painting their nails, Sarah could be found at the local gym, pushing herself through grueling workout routines that would challenge grown men. Her father, a retired Marine Corps sergeant, had instilled in her a discipline and determination that most people twice her age lacked. From the moment she could walk, Sarah's father taught her that strength wasn't just about muscles. It was about mental fortitude, unwavering dedication, and the ability to push through when everything inside you screamed to quit. He would wake her up at 5 in the morning for runs through the desert, teaching her to navigate by the stars and survive with minimal resources. These weren't games to him. They were life lessons that would shape his daughter into someone extraordinary. At 17, Sarah stood 5 feet 6 inches tall, with a lean, muscular frame that spoke of countless hours of training. Her dark eyes held an intensity that made people uncomfortable, as if she could see right through their excuses and weaknesses. She had earned black belts in both karate and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, could outrun most of the boys on the high school track team, and shoot with accuracy that impressed even seasoned hunters. The decision to join the Navy came naturally to Sarah. While her friends were applying to colleges and planning sorority parties, she was studying military tactics and physical training regimens. Her guidance counselor tried to dissuade her, suggesting she consider a more traditional path for a young woman, but Sarah's mind was made up. She wanted to be part of something bigger than herself, something that would test every fiber of her being. Basic training at Naval Station Great Lakes was supposed to break recruits down and build them back up. For Sarah, it felt like a warm-up. While other recruits struggled with the physical demands and mental pressure, she thrived. Her drill instructors, initially skeptical of the young woman who claimed she belonged among warriors, quickly recognized her exceptional abilities. During one particularly challenging exercise, recruits were required to complete a grueling obstacle course while carrying heavy equipment. Many of the men struggled with the weight and complexity of the course. Sarah not only completed it faster than anyone else, but went back to help struggling teammates finish. Her actions caught the attention of a Navy SEAL recruiter who happened to be observing the exercise. Chief Petty Officer Williams approached Sarah after the exercise. He was a weathered man with scars that told stories of countless missions in hostile territories. His eyes held the kind of hardness that came from seeing too much combat. But when he looked at Sarah, there was something resembling respect. "Martinez," he said, his voice gravelly from years of shouting orders over gunfire. "I've been watching you. You've got something most of these recruits don't have. You've got the kind of determination we look for in special operations." Sarah stood at attention, her heart racing with anticipation. She had dreamed of this moment since deciding to join the Navy. The SEALs represented the pinnacle of military excellence, the elite warriors who took on missions others couldn't handle. "I'd like the opportunity to prove myself, Chief," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite her excitement. Chief Williams studied her for a long moment. "SEAL training isn't like anything you've experienced, Martinez. It's designed to push you beyond what you think is humanly possible. The failure rate is over 80%, and that's for men who've been training their entire lives for this opportunity." "I understand, Chief. I'm ready for whatever it takes." The selection process for SEAL training was brutal even before the actual training began. Candidates underwent rigorous physical and psychological evaluations designed to identify those with the potential to survive the legendary Basic Underwater Demolition/SEAL training, known simply as BUD/S. Sarah excelled in every test. Her swimming times were competitive with the best male candidates, her physical strength scores placed her in the top percentile, and her psychological evaluations showed the kind of mental resilience that instructors looked for in potential SEALs. More importantly, she demonstrated an understanding of teamwork and leadership that set her apart from candidates who were simply physically gifted. The journey to Naval Amphibious Base Coronado in San Diego marked the beginning of the most challenging period of Sarah's life. BUD/S training was legendary for its difficulty, designed to push candidates to their absolute limits and beyond. The program was structured in 3 phases, each designed to test different aspects of a candidate's abilities. The first phase focused on physical conditioning and water competency. Days began before sunrise with runs on the beach, followed by hours of calisthenics, swimming in the frigid Pacific Ocean, and obstacle course training. The instructors, known for their creative methods of motivation, pushed candidates relentlessly. Sarah found herself part of a class of 180 candidates, including only 2 other women. The men ranged from experienced Marines and Army Rangers to college athletes who thought their previous achievements had prepared them for SEAL training. Most would be gone within the first few weeks. The infamous Hell Week came during the 5th week of first phase training. For 5.5 days, candidates would be pushed to their absolute limits with only 4 hours of sleep total. It was designed to test not just physical endurance but mental toughness and the ability to function under extreme stress. As Hell Week began, Sarah understood that everything she had experienced up to this point had been preparation for this moment. The instructors became relentless taskmasters, subjecting candidates to constant physical challenges, sleep deprivation, and psychological pressure designed to break their will. The beach runs seemed endless, with instructors demanding faster times, while candidates carried heavy boats over their heads. The ocean was brutally cold, and candidates spent hours in the surf being pounded by waves while performing exercises. Sand filled their uniforms, their boots, and every crevice of their equipment. By the 2nd day, candidates were dropping out at an alarming rate. The sound of the bell that signified a candidate's withdrawal became a constant reminder of how easy it would be to quit. Some left due to injuries, others simply because they had reached their mental breaking point. Sarah watched as men who had seemed invincible during the early weeks of training rang the bell and walked away. She saw the doubt in the eyes of those who remained, the way they questioned whether they could endure another day of this punishment. But inside herself, she found a reserve of determination that seemed inexhaustible. On the 3rd day, during a particularly brutal surf passage exercise, Sarah helped carry an injured teammate to safety while continuing to meet the exercise requirements. Her actions didn't go unnoticed by the instructors, who were always watching for signs of the selfless leadership that characterized true SEALs. The psychological games were perhaps the most challenging aspect of Hell Week. Instructors would offer candidates warm food, dry clothes, and rest if they would just ring the bell. They painted vivid pictures of the comfort waiting just beyond the training compound, trying to break down the mental barriers that kept candidates going. Sarah developed her own mental strategies for dealing with the pressure. She focused on her father's teachings about mental toughness, visualized successful completion of each exercise before beginning it, and drew strength from the knowledge that she was proving something important not just to herself, but to every woman who dreamed of serving in special operations. By the 4th day of Hell Week, the original class of 180 had been reduced to fewer than 40 candidates. Those who remained had developed a bond forged by shared suffering and mutual dependence. They had learned to function as a team, even while competing against each other for the limited spots in the SEAL teams. The final day of Hell Week brought a mix of relief and new challenges. Candidates who had survived the ordeal knew they had accomplished something extraordinary, but they also understood that Hell Week was just the beginning of their journey toward becoming SEALs. When the exercise finally ended, Sarah stood with the other survivors, exhausted but triumphant. She had not only survived Hell Week but had distinguished herself as a leader and teammate. The instructors who had spent 5 days trying to break her now looked at her with something approaching admiration. Chief Williams approached the surviving candidates after the Hell Week graduation ceremony. His expression was serious, but there was pride in his eyes as he looked at the small group of warriors who had proven themselves worthy of continuing in the program. "You've accomplished something that most people can't even imagine," he told them. "But don't let this success make you overconfident. Hell Week was just the first test. The real challenges are still ahead of you." The 2nd phase of BUD/S training focused on combat diving and underwater operations. Candidates learned to use sophisticated diving equipment, navigate underwater in zero-visibility conditions, and conduct combat missions while completely submerged. The training was technical and demanding, requiring not just physical ability but mental acuity and attention to detail that could mean the difference between mission success and failure. Sarah excelled in the underwater environment. Her swimming background and natural comfort in the water gave her an advantage, but it was her ability to remain calm under pressure that really set her apart. During simulated equipment failures and emergency situations, she maintained the kind of cool professionalism that instructors looked for in future SEALs. The 3rd and final phase of BUD/S training focused on land warfare and weapons training. Candidates learned advanced marksmanship, small unit tactics, demolitions, and reconnaissance techniques. This phase was designed to transform the physically and mentally tough survivors of the first two phases into skilled warriors capable of conducting complex military operations. Throughout all three phases of training, Sarah proved herself not just as an individual performer. She helped struggling teammates, volunteered for the most challenging assignments, and consistently demonstrated the kind of selfless service that characterized the best SEALs. When graduation day finally arrived, Sarah stood among just 23 survivors from the original class of 180 candidates. She had become one of the first women to successfully complete SEAL training, earning the right to wear the coveted Trident pin that marked her as a member of the elite Navy SEAL community. The graduation ceremony was attended by high-ranking Navy officials, proud family members, and veteran SEALs who understood the magnitude of what the new graduates had accomplished. Sarah's father, now retired but still carrying himself with military bearing, watched with tears in his eyes as his daughter received her Trident pin. Following graduation from Bud/S, Sarah entered SEAL qualification training, an additional 6-month program designed to teach the specific skills needed for special operations missions. She learned advanced weapon systems, foreign languages, cultural awareness, and the complex planning processes that govern special operations. Her first assignment was to SEAL Team 5, based at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. The team was preparing for deployment to Afghanistan, where they would conduct direct action missions against high-value targets in support of the broader war effort. The transition from training to operational status brought new challenges for Sarah. While she had proven herself capable during training, some members of the team questioned whether a woman could handle the physical and emotional demands of actual combat operations. She understood that she would need to prove herself all over again, this time in environments where mistakes could cost lives. Team 5's commanding officer, Lieutenant Commander James Patterson, was a veteran of multiple combat deployments who had earned a reputation for leading successful missions in some of the most dangerous areas of Afghanistan. He was initially skeptical about having a female operator on his team, not because he doubted women's capabilities, but because he was concerned about how her presence might affect team dynamics and mission effectiveness. During pre-deployment training, Sarah worked tirelessly to integrate herself into the team and prove her worth as an operator. She participated in countless training exercises, demonstrating her proficiency with weapons, tactics, and team procedures. Gradually, her teammates began to accept her as a valued member of the unit rather than an experiment or symbol. The deployment to Afghanistan marked a turning point in Sarah's military career. The team's forward operating base was located in Kandahar province, one of the most contested regions in the country. Here, Taliban fighters maintained a strong presence, and coalition forces conducted daily operations to disrupt enemy activities and protect local civilians. Sarah's first combat mission came just 2 weeks after arriving in country. The team received intelligence about a high-value target hiding in a remote village compound. The target was believed to be a Taliban commander, responsible for coordinating attacks against coalition forces and local government officials. The mission briefing took place in a secure tent at the forward operating base. Lieutenant Commander Patterson outlined the plan using satellite imagery and intelligence reports gathered by reconnaissance teams. The compound was located in a valley surrounded by rocky hills that provided excellent cover for enemy fighters. "This is a direct action mission," Patterson explained to his team. "We insert by helicopter 2 kilometers from the target, approach on foot under cover of darkness, secure the compound, capture or kill the target, and extract with any intelligence materials we can find." Sarah listened intently to every detail of the plan, memorizing her role in the operation and considering potential complications that might arise. She had trained for missions like this countless times, but she understood that actual combat would test her in ways that simulations could never replicate. The team conducted final equipment checks and reviewed contingency plans before loading onto the helicopters that would take them to their insertion point. Sarah carried the same weapons and equipment as her male teammates: an M4 carbine with specialized optics, a sidearm, explosives for breaching doors, communications equipment, and medical supplies. The helicopter ride to the insertion point was tense and quiet. Team members went through final mental preparations, reviewing their individual responsibilities and thinking through potential scenarios they might encounter. Sarah found herself feeling completely calm, her training taking over and suppressing any anxiety about her first combat operation. The insertion went smoothly, with the team fast roping from the helicopter into a small clearing surrounded by rocky terrain. They quickly established security and began moving toward their target, using night vision equipment to navigate in complete darkness. The approach to the compound required careful movement across open ground that offered little cover from enemy observation. The team moved in tactical formation, with each member covering specific sectors and maintaining communication through hand signals and whispered radio transmissions. As they reached the outer perimeter of the compound, Sarah could see movement inside the buildings through her night vision goggles. Intelligence reports had indicated that the target might be meeting with other Taliban leaders, which could mean additional enemy fighters in the area. The team split into two elements for the assault. Sarah was assigned to the primary assault element that would breach the main building, where the target was believed to be located. The second element would secure the perimeter and prevent enemy fighters from escaping or reinforcing the compound. The breach was executed with precision timing. Explosive charges blew open the main door while the team stormed into the building, using flashbang grenades to disorient anyone inside. Sarah was the third person through the door, her weapon ready and her training guiding her movements. Inside the building, the team encountered armed resistance. Taliban fighters opened fire from defensive positions, forcing the SEALs to engage in close-quarters combat. Sarah found herself face-to-face with an enemy fighter who emerged from behind a doorway with an AK-47 rifle. Her training took over completely. Without hesitation, she engaged the target with controlled bursts from her M4 carbine, neutralizing the threat before he could fire at her or her teammates. The entire engagement lasted less than 10 seconds, but it marked Sarah's first kill in combat. The team systematically cleared the building room by room until they located the high-value target hiding in a back bedroom. The Taliban commander surrendered without further resistance, and the team began collecting intelligence materials from throughout the compound. Sarah helped search the building for documents, electronic devices, and other materials that might provide information about Taliban activities in the region. The team found detailed maps showing planned attack locations, communications equipment, and financial records that would prove valuable to intelligence analysts. The extraction went as smoothly as the insertion, with the team successfully departing the area with their prisoner and captured intelligence. Back at the forward operating base, Sarah participated in the detailed debriefing that followed every mission, helping analysts understand what the team had observed and accomplished. Lieutenant Commander Patterson approached Sarah after the debriefing. His expression was serious, but she could see approval in his eyes. "Outstanding work out there, Martinez," he said. "You performed exactly like we train, exactly like a SEAL should perform. Your teammates noticed, and so did I." Over the following months, Sarah participated in dozens of combat missions throughout Afghanistan. She conducted direct action raids against enemy leaders, reconnaissance missions in hostile territory, and training operations with Afghan military units. Each mission built her confidence and reputation as a reliable, skilled operator. Her teammates gradually stopped thinking of her as the woman on the team and began seeing her simply as Martinez, a trusted member of their unit who could be counted on in any situation. She had earned their respect through consistent performance and unwavering dedication to the team's mission. The physical demands of combat operations in Afghanistan were extraordinary. Teams often operated for days at a time in harsh terrain, carrying heavy equipment while navigating through mountains, deserts, and urban areas. Sarah's years of physical training served her well, allowing her to keep pace with her teammates during the most demanding operations. One particularly challenging mission required the team to conduct a long-range reconnaissance patrol in mountainous terrain near the Pakistan border. They would spend 5 days observing enemy activity and gathering intelligence about Taliban supply routes through the region. The patrol required carrying enough food, water, and ammunition for 5 days while remaining undetected in enemy territory. The team moved only at night, hiding during daylight hours in carefully chosen observation positions that provided good visibility while offering concealment from enemy forces. On the third day of the patrol, the team observed a large convoy of vehicles moving through the valley below their position. The convoy appeared to be carrying weapons and supplies for Taliban fighters in the region. Sarah used advanced optics equipment to photograph the vehicles and document their contents while other team members recorded the time, location, and direction of travel. The intelligence gathered during this patrol led to successful airstrikes against Taliban supply lines and significantly disrupted enemy operations in the region. Sarah's careful documentation and attention to detail contributed directly to the mission's success. As her deployment continued, Sarah began to stand out not just for her performance in combat, but for her leadership abilities. She often served as team leader for smaller operations and helped train newly arrived SEALs who joined the unit during their rotation in Afghanistan. Her success didn't go unnoticed by higher-ranking officers in the special operations community. Word spread about the female SEAL who was proving herself in combat and earning the respect of her peers. Some saw her as a symbol of changing times in the military, while others remained skeptical about women serving in special operations roles. The controversy surrounding women in special operations intensified when Sarah was selected to attend a prestigious military leadership course back in the United States. The course was designed for rising leaders in the special operations community and typically led to assignments in higher-level positions with greater responsibility. Some officers questioned whether Sarah's selection was based on merit or whether she was being promoted for political reasons related to military policies on gender integration. These doubts created tension within the special operations community and put additional pressure on Sarah to prove herself worthy of the opportunities she was receiving. The leadership course was conducted at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home to the Army's Special Operations community. Students included officers from various special operations units across all military branches. The curriculum covered advanced tactics, strategic planning, and leadership principles applicable to special operations missions. Sarah excelled in the academic portions of the course, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of military strategy and tactics. Her combat experience in Afghanistan gave her credibility with instructors and fellow students who might otherwise have questioned her qualifications. During tactical exercises, Sarah consistently performed at the highest levels, often taking leadership roles and developing innovative solutions to complex problems. Her ability to think clearly under pressure and communicate effectively with team members made her a natural leader among her peers. One particular exercise required students to plan and execute a complex special operations mission using limited resources and incomplete intelligence. Sarah was selected as the team leader for her group, which included experienced officers from Army Special Forces, Marine Force Reconnaissance, and Air Force Special Operations. Her team was tasked with conducting a hostage rescue operation in a simulated urban environment. The scenario involved multiple buildings, civilian populations, and sophisticated enemy defenses. Sarah developed a plan that maximized the team's strengths while minimizing risks to hostages and team members. The execution of the mission was flawless. The Sarah's team successfully infiltrated the target area, neutralized enemy guards, rescued all hostages, and extracted without casualties. The exercise controllers rated it as one of the best performances they had seen in years of conducting the training. Word of Sarah's exceptional performance during the leadership course reached senior officers throughout the special operations community. Some were impressed by her abilities and began to see her as a valuable asset who could contribute to the military's evolving approach to special operations. Others, however, remained convinced that women didn't belong in special operations and viewed Sarah's success as a threat to military traditions and unit cohesion. This opposition would eventually manifest itself in ways that would test Sarah's resolve and determination more severely than any combat mission. Upon completing the leadership course, Sarah was assigned to a special operations planning cell at the Pentagon. Her new role involved developing strategies and tactics for future special operations missions around the world. It was a prestigious assignment that recognized her growing reputation as a skilled operator and strategic thinker. The Pentagon assignment exposed Sarah to the highest levels of military decision-making and gave her insights into how special operations fit into broader national security strategies. She worked alongside some of the most experienced officers in the military, contributing to plans that would shape special operations for years to come. Her colleagues at the Pentagon gradually came to respect her expertise and judgment. She demonstrated an ability to understand complex political and military situations and develop practical solutions that could be implemented by operators in the field. Her combat experience gave her credibility that many Pentagon staff officers lacked. During her time at the Pentagon, Sarah worked on planning for a major special operations campaign in a troubled region of Africa. The campaign would involve multiple special operations units conducting coordinated missions to disrupt terrorist activities and support local government forces. Sarah's role in planning the campaign was significant. She helped develop the overall strategy, coordinate between different military units, and ensure that operational plans were realistic and achievable. Her work contributed to what would later be recognized as one of the most successful special operations campaigns in recent military history. The success of the African campaign led to Sarah being selected for promotion to lieutenant commander, making her one of the highest-ranking women in the SEAL community. The promotion ceremony was attended by senior Navy officials and represented a milestone in the integration of women into special operations. However, not everyone was pleased with Sarah's rapid advancement through the ranks. Some officers felt that she was being promoted too quickly for political reasons rather than based solely on merit. These tensions would eventually come to a head in a confrontation that would test everything Sarah had learned about leadership, courage, and standing up for what was right. The tension had been building for months within the special operations community. Sarah's rapid promotion and high-profile assignments had created resentment among some officers who believed that political correctness was undermining military effectiveness. These officers saw her success as evidence that the military was lowering standards to accommodate women in combat roles. The breaking point came during a joint training exercise at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. The exercise brought together special operations units from all military branches to practice coordinated operations and test new tactics and equipment. Sarah was assigned as one of the exercise planners, responsible for coordinating between different units and ensuring that training objectives were met. Brigadier General Robert Hayes commanded the Army Special Operations units participating in the exercise. Hayes was a decorated veteran with over 25 years of service, including multiple combat deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. He had built his reputation on demanding excellence from his troops and maintaining traditional military standards. Hayes had made no secret of his opposition to women serving in special operations roles. He believed that integrating women into elite units would compromise mission effectiveness and put lives at risk. He saw Sarah's presence in the special operations community as a dangerous experiment that needed to be stopped. The exercise scenario involved a complex multi-day operation, requiring coordination between Navy SEALs, Army Special Forces, Marine Force Reconnaissance, and Air Force Special Operations units. Each service would contribute different capabilities to accomplish a simulated mission involving hostage rescue, direct action, and intelligence gathering. Sarah had spent weeks developing the exercise plan, working with representatives from each participating unit to ensure that the training would be challenging and realistic. She had coordinated with intelligence analysts, aviation units, and support personnel to create a scenario that would test every aspect of special operations capabilities. On the first day of the exercise, unit commanders gathered for a final briefing before operations began. Sarah presented the overall plan and timeline, explaining how different units would work together to accomplish their objectives. Her presentation was professional and detailed, reflecting months of careful preparation. As Sarah concluded her briefing, General Hayes stood up to address the assembled commanders. His expression was stern, and there was obvious displeasure in his voice. "I have serious concerns about this exercise plan," Hayes announced. "It's overly complicated and relies too heavily on coordination between units that have different capabilities and training standards." Sarah remained calm despite the unexpected criticism. "General, the plan has been reviewed and approved by all participating units. Each commander has had the opportunity to provide input and suggest modifications." Hayes turned his attention directly to Sarah, his voice becoming more aggressive. "Lieutenant Commander Martinez, with all due respect, I don't think you have the experience or understanding necessary to plan operations of this complexity. This exercise could put people at risk if something goes wrong." The room fell silent. Other commanders recognized the personal nature of Hayes's attack and understood that something deeper was motivating his criticism. Sarah felt the eyes of every officer in the room focused on her, waiting to see how she would respond. "General Hayes," Sarah replied, her voice steady and professional. "I have extensive combat experience and have been involved in planning operations at every level from tactical to strategic. The exercise plan has been thoroughly reviewed and tested to ensure safety and effectiveness." Hayes stepped closer to Sarah, his imposing presence meant to intimidate her. At 6 feet, 2 ounces tall and weighing over 200 pounds, he towered over her smaller frame. His voice dropped to a menacing tone that everyone in the room could hear. "Listen here, Martinez. I don't care what kind of political games got you into this position, but I'm not going to stand by and watch some diversity hire endanger my soldiers. You don't belong here, and everyone in this room knows it." The accusation hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Sarah felt her face flush with anger, but she maintained her composure. Years of training and combat experience had taught her to control her emotions even in the most stressful situations. "General, my qualifications speak for themselves," Sarah said firmly. "I've earned my position through performance and dedication, just like every other officer in this room. I would appreciate if you would focus on the exercise plan rather than making personal attacks." Hayes' face reddened with anger. He was not accustomed to being challenged, especially by a subordinate officer, and particularly not by a woman. His voice became louder and more aggressive. "You think you can lecture me about military qualifications? I was leading combat missions when you were still in high school. You're nothing but a political stunt designed to make politicians feel good about themselves." Other officers in the room began to shift uncomfortably. They recognized that the situation was escalating beyond professional disagreement into personal conflict. Some sympathized with Hayes' position on women in special operations, while others believed that Sarah had proven herself worthy of respect. Sarah took a deep breath, drawing on every lesson her father had taught her about standing up to bullies and maintaining dignity under pressure. She looked directly into Hayes' eyes, her voice calm but firm. "General Hayes, I understand that you have concerns about women serving in special operations. However, I have earned my place in this community through the same training, the same standards, and the same combat experience as any male officer. I will not be intimidated or dismissed because of my gender." Ai's anger reached a boiling point. Years of frustration over changing military policies and what he saw as the erosion of traditional military values exploded in a moment of poor judgment. Without warning, he raised his hand and struck Sarah across the face with enough force to knock her backward. The room erupted in shocked silence. No one could believe what had just happened. A general officer had just physically assaulted a subordinate in front of dozens of witnesses. The implications were staggering for everyone involved. Sarah felt the sting of the blow and tasted blood where her teeth had cut the inside of her cheek. For a moment, time seemed frozen as she processed what had just occurred. Her combat training and years of physical conditioning had prepared her for violence, but not from a fellow officer in a briefing room. The instincts that had kept Sarah alive through countless combat missions took over. Before Hayes could react or anyone else could intervene, she responded with lightning-fast precision. Her right hand formed a fist and connected with Hayes' solar plexus with enough force to double him over and drive the air from his lungs. As Hayes gasped for breath and stumbled backward, Sarah followed up with a perfectly executed uppercut that caught him under the chin and snapped his head back. The powerful blow lifted the much larger man off his feet and sent him crashing to the floor, unconscious before he hit the ground. The entire confrontation from Hayes' initial strike to his unconscious body hitting the floor lasted less than 5 seconds. Sarah stood over the fallen general, her hands still clenched into fists, adrenaline surging through her system as she processed what had just happened. The room remained in stunned silence for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Other officers stared in disbelief at the unconscious general lying on the floor and the small woman standing over him. No one seemed to know how to respond to such an unprecedented situation. Colonel Michael Thompson, the senior Marine officer present, was the first to react. He quickly moved to check on Hayes while simultaneously taking control of the situation. "Corpsman!" he shouted, calling for medical assistance. He then looked at Sarah, his expression serious but not hostile. "Lieutenant Commander Martinez, I need you to step outside while we sort this out." Sarah nodded, her professional training helping her regain her composure. She understood that the situation would require careful handling and that she needed to cooperate fully with any investigation that would inevitably follow. As medical personnel arrived to treat the unconscious general, other officers began discussing what they had witnessed. Some expressed shock that Hayes had struck a subordinate officer, while others seemed surprised that Sarah had been able to defend herself so effectively against a much larger opponent. Within hours, news of the incident had spread throughout the special operations community and beyond. Military investigators arrived to begin interviews with witnesses and document the events leading up to the confrontation. Sarah was questioned extensively about her actions and the circumstances that led to the physical altercation. The investigation revealed that Hayes had a history of making inappropriate comments about women in the military and had previously expressed his opposition to gender integration policies. Several officers came forward to report instances where Hayes had made discriminatory remarks or created hostile environments for female personnel. Sarah's response to Hayes's assault was determined to be justified self-defense. Video surveillance from the briefing room confirmed the sequence of events and showed that Hayes had initiated the physical confrontation. Military legal experts concluded that Sarah had acted appropriately in defending herself against an unprovoked attack. The incident had far-reaching consequences for both officers involved. General Hayes was court-martialed for assault and conduct unbecoming an officer. His military career, which had spanned more than 2 decades, came to an ignominious end with his conviction and dismissal from service. For Sarah, the incident paradoxically enhanced her reputation within the special operations community. Officers who had previously questioned her abilities now recognized that she possessed not only the physical skills necessary for special operations, but also the mental toughness to stand up for herself and her principles under extreme pressure. The confrontation became a turning point in military discussions about women in combat roles. Sarah's ability to defend herself against a much larger, stronger opponent demonstrated that properly trained women could hold their own in physical confrontations and shouldn't be dismissed as inherently vulnerable. News media picked up the story, turning Sarah into a symbol of changing gender roles in the military. Some portrayed her as a hero who had stood up against discrimination and sexism, while others criticized her for using violence against a superior officer, regardless of the circumstances. Sarah found the media attention uncomfortable and tried to focus on her military duties rather than public relations. She understood that her actions had larger implications for women serving in special operations, but she preferred to let her performance speak for itself rather than becoming a spokesperson for gender integration. The Navy recognized that Sarah needed a fresh start after the incident and assigned her to a new position that would allow her to continue her career without the baggage of the confrontation with Hayes. She was selected to command a SEAL platoon, making her one of the first women to hold such a leadership position in the special operations community. Her new command was a test of her leadership abilities under different circumstances. Leading a platoon required not just tactical expertise, but also the ability to inspire confidence and loyalty among subordinates who might have their own doubts about serving under a female commander. Sarah approached her new command with characteristic determination and professionalism. She focused on training her platoon to the highest standards, ensuring that they were prepared for any mission they might be assigned. She demanded excellence from every member of the unit, while also demonstrating the kind of leadership that inspired rather than intimidated. Over time, the members of Sarah's platoon came to respect her not as a symbol or experiment, but as a competent, dedicated leader who cared about their welfare and success. She proved that leadership in special operations wasn't about gender, but about competence, character, and commitment to the mission. The incident with General Hayes became a defining moment in Sarah's career, but it didn't define her entire identity as an officer. She continued to serve with distinction, earning additional promotions and recognition for her contributions to special operations. Her career demonstrated that women could not only survive in the demanding world of special operations, but could thrive and lead others to success. Years later, when military historians analyzed the integration of women into special operations, they often pointed to Sarah's confrontation with General Hayes as a pivotal moment. It represented the end of an era when women could be dismissed or intimidated simply because of their gender, and the beginning of a new period when women would be judged solely on their abilities and performance. Sarah's legacy extended beyond her individual achievements to influence policy changes that opened more opportunities for women in the military. Her example inspired other women to pursue careers in special operations and helped establish standards and expectations that would guide future generations of female warriors. The woman who had once been questioned and doubted had proven that courage, skill, and determination were not limited by gender. In standing up to General Hayes and defending herself with such decisive effectiveness, Sarah had sent a message that would resonate throughout the military community for years to come. Excellence knows no gender, and those who possess it will not be intimidated or dismissed by those who would deny them the opportunity to serve.